So good afternoon, everyone. Today we're here to report about the payroll system and fixed assets system in manual accounting and computer accounting system. So for the first part, I'm in charge of the payroll system in manual accounting system. So let's start. So what are the forms used in the payroll system? This is important to know before we proceed to the procedure and how the payroll system works. So first, we have the personal action form. So this form shows termination, activates new employees, change of pay rate, and change of marital status and or dependents. So in summary, this form shows the current status of the employee and if they are currently terminated or still employed. So let's see an example of what this form looks like. So here is an image of the personal action form. You can see it has termination data, approval, transfer data, salary bonus, title changes, and other details needed. Next. Next, we have job ticket and time cards. So these two are similar, but they are a bit different. So the job ticket accounts for time spent by the worker on each production job. Keep in mind the words each production job, and for time cards, they are used to capture total time worked for each pay period for payroll calculations. So in order to avoid getting confused, just remember, when you see job ticket, it means it is the time spent for each production job. And when you encounter time cards, just remember that it is the total time worked for and not per each job. Okay, so let's start the examples of what these two look like. So in a time card, we have the date, job description, hours, rate, and amount, and the total. For the job ticket, we have the type of work, quantity, stock, description, and amount. So these are the examples. And next, we move on to the overview of the payroll system. So the payroll system is in charge of preparing the payroll register, entering information into the employee payroll records, prepares paychecks, send paychecks to cash disbursement, and a copy of payroll register to accounts payable. So these are some of its functions. And now we move on to the importance of the payroll system. So first, we have transaction authorization. The use of the personal action form helps prevent terminated employees from receiving checks and wage rates being improperly changed for current employees. So it's important to have transaction authorization in order to ensure that the data we're inputting in the payrolls are correct and we're not making any mistakes in giving paychecks to terminated employees or suddenly having different wage rates. So next, we have the segregation of duties. Timekeeping and personnel functions are separated. Then we have supervision, monitoring of employees to ensure proper clock-in times. This is important because in some cases, there are times when the workers in a company tell their other coworkers to clock them in, even though they didn't really clock in their time. So it leads to a false clock in time, which causes a discrepancy. And next, we have access controls. Prevent employees from having unauthorized access to accounting records, time cards, so such as the one mentioned in supervision, and unsigned checks. So next, we have independent verification, which includes paycheck distribution to authorized employees, time card verification, verification of accuracy of payroll register, accounts payable department, and general ledger department reconciles the labor distribution summary and the payroll disbursement voucher. So please excuse this typo. And so as you observed, it is very important in the payroll system to always verify the information being inputted. Since payrolls are cash disbursements and cash disbursements are important to the company. So next, we have the procedure of the payroll system. So number one, payroll authorization and hours worked enter the payroll system. So the information is gathered from two departments. Number one is the payroll department. It prepares the personnel action form, and the production department, which prepares job tickets and time cards. So the information gained from these forms are inputted into the payroll system. Next, the information is reconciled by the payroll department and the payroll is calculated. Then distribution of paychecks to the employees. So in this step, the payroll department confirms the information that they received and they calculate the payroll. Then the paychecks are distributed to the employees. But remember, in this step, the employees are not paid. That comes in the next set of steps, which involves the cash disbursement of cash disbursement forms from the accounts payable department. So third, we have cost accounting receives information of time spent per production job and post them to the work in progress account. So number four, accounts payable department receives payroll summary information from the payroll department and authorizes the cash disbursement department to deposit a single check in the amount of the total payroll in a bank impressed account. So this part is where the employees will be able to cash out their payroll and not in the earlier step. Number five, we have the general ledger department reconcile summary information from cost accounting and accounts payable. Control accounts are updated to reflect these transactions. So the general ledger department, for the final time, confirms the information from the cost accounting and accounts payable. So they have to double check. So after double checking, control accounts are updated. So they are going to record the changes made to reflect these transactions. So here are some of the journal entries that they use by the general ledger department. So from the labor distribution summary, we have debit work in progress, which is direct labor, and debit factory overhead, indirect labor. And in the credit side, we have wages payable. From the distribution voucher, we have wages payable in the debit side. And on the credit side, we have cash, federal income tax withholding payable, state income tax withholding payable, FICA withholding payable, and other withholding payable. So this is just the journal entry to record the payroll impressed account of the general ledgers. So we have debit cash, payroll impressed account, and credit cash operating account. So let's move on to the next topic, which is the fixed asset system in manual accounting system. So this begins with asset acquisition. When the departmental manager recognizes the need to obtain a new asset or replace a new one. So of course, in order to first acquire an asset, we first have to need the new asset. So once the request is approved and a supplier has been selected, the receiving department delivers the asset into the custody of the user or manager. Then the fixed asset department performs the record keeping function. So basically, after they approve the asset to be acquired, they deliver the asset to the manager. Then the fixed asset is recorded. And next, we have asset maintenance, which involves adjusting the fixed asset subsidiary account balances as the assets depreciate over time or with usage, and the asset accounts to reflect the cost of physical improvements that increase the asset's value or extend its useful life. So this is just the same of what we're doing when we record depreciation of assets. Next. When one department transfers custody of an asset to another department, information about the transfer should be recorded in the fixed asset subsidiary ledger. Each subsidiary record should indicate the current location of the asset. Next, we have asset disposal, which is the last one. The responsible manager issues a request to dispose of the asset. Then a disposal report describing the final disposition of the asset would be sent to the fixed asset accounting department and to authorize its removal from the ledger. So that is the process of the asset disposal, and that's all for the fixed asset system in the manual accounting system. So thank you for listening. I hope you understood my report. And next, my group mates are going to report about the computer accounting system.
Hi, I'm Charles Sasonza and I'm about to report computer-based accounting system. Let's start with fixed asset system. First is asset acquisition. The fixed asset accounting clerk receives a receiving report and a cash disbursement voucher. From the computer terminal, a clerk creates a record of the asset in the fixed asset subsidiary ledger. The fixed asset system automatically updates the fixed asset control account in the general ledger and prepare journal vouchers for the general ledger department as evidence of the entry. The system prepares a depreciation schedule for each asset when its acquisition is originally recorded, and then stored on a computer disk to permit future depreciation calculations. Next, we have asset maintenance. What happens under asset maintenance? First, we calculate the current period's depreciation, then updating the accumulated depreciation and book value fields in the subsidiary records. Then 3, posting the total amount of depreciation to the affected general ledger accounts. And 4, recording the depreciation transaction by adding a record to the journal voucher file. Then finally, a fixed asset depreciation report is sent to the fixed asset department for review. Next we have is asset disposal. When the clerk deletes the record from the fixed asset subsidiary ledger, the system automatically posts an adjusting entry to the fixed asset control account in the general ledger, then records any loss or gain associated to the disposal. Then 3, prepares a journal voucher. Next up is controlling fixed asset system. Under this, we have 3 authorization controls, supervision controls, and independent verification controls. Authorization controls. Fixed asset acquisition should be formal and explicitly authorized. Thus, each transaction should be initiated by a written request from the user or department. In the case of items considered to be high value, there is a need for an independent approval process which evaluates the merits of the request on a cost-benefit basis. Next is supervision controls. Supervision must ensure that fixed assets are being used in accordance with the organization's policies and business practices. And last, independent verification controls. Periodically, the internal auditor should review the asset acquisition and approval procedures to determine the reasonableness of the factors used in the analysis as well as verified the location, condition, and fair value of the organization's fixed asset against the fixed asset records in the subsidiary ledger. That's all for me. Thank you.
So, hi, my name is Nasampol Di Bandola and the next topic will be the re-engineering the payroll system. So, bakit nga ba necessary sa kumpanya? So, it can free us to valuable labor and financial resources. Also, it can help us overcome self-inflicted technology limitations. So, the computer program, so they can perform the detailed record keeping, check writing, and general ledger functions in the company. So, in re-engineering the payroll system, we should take note these four things. So, first is the human resource management, the personnel, the cost accounting, and the timekeeping of the company. So, first is the human resource management. So, it captures and processes a wide range of personnel-related data, including employee benefits, labor resource planning, employee relations, employee skills, and personal actions, as well as payroll. So, payroll can be re-engineered as part of human resource management. So, it can process a wide range of personal-related data. So, it includes payroll processing, maintaining salary details, deductions, attendance, allowance, loans, and bonuses of the employees. So, second is the personnel. So, the personnel department makes changes to the employee file in real time via terminals such as the addition of newly hired employees, deletion of terminated employees, and changes in dependents, withholdings, and job status or pay rate. So, dito sa re-engineered payroll system, they can make changes na dito sa employee file na real time na. So, it's whether kung may nadagdagan na employee, kung may nabawasan, or kung may na-promote, may na-demote. So, next is the cost accounting. So, the cost accounting department enters a real-time or daily job cost data to create the labor usage file. So, they will enter the job cost data either daily or in real time dun sa system. And lastly is the timekeeping department creates the current attendance file. So, they enter the attendance file daily na dito. So, next is the data processing. So, first step is distribution of the labor cost either sa WIP overhead and the expense account. Second is the summary file is created of the online labor distribution. So, the copies of the file are sent to the cost accounting and general ledger departments. Third is an online payroll register is created from the attendance and employee files. So the copies of these are sent to the AP or the cash disbursements department. Fourth is the employee records file is updated. Fifth is the payroll checks are prepared and signed. So they are sent to the treasurer for review and reconciliation with the payroll register. So they will be distributed to the employees. Six is the disbursement voucher files updated and a check is prepared for the fund transfer to the payroll impress account. So the check and the hard copy of the disbursement voucher are sent to the cash disbursement. And lastly is at the end of processing, so the system retrieves the labor distribution summary file and the disbursement voucher file and updates the general ledger file. So these are the data processing for the re-engineered payroll system. So let's have a sample. So this is a sample of a batch process system. So hindi pa siya na re-engineer dito. So we can see here the 3 columns. So first, the production column, the data processing column, and the cash disbursement column. So kung titignan natin mabuti, makikita natin dito is the personnel, the job ticket, and the time card, which represent the personnel, the cost accounting, and the timekeeping of the company. So dito may kanya-kanya siyang terminal. However, step by step process ang nagaganap dito. So parang mas mabagal siya. Unlike sa real time o sa magiging re-engineered payroll system na ipapakita ko sa inyo. So let's proceed. So this is an example of a re-engineered process system. So may kita natin dito the personal column, the cost accounting column, and the timekeeping column. So may kanya-kanya pa rin siyang terminal dito. However, sabay-sabay na sila napupunta dito sa human resource management to be updated the real time. So, and to proceed to the data processing. So, wala na rin dito yung cash disbursement column na makikita natin sa batch process since kagaya ng sinabi ko kanina sa data process system na nagaganap yung pag-update ng payroll o yung cash disbursement para sa mga employees. So, ang malaking pinagkaiba lang dito ay sa batch process medyo matagal siya. So, unlike dito sa re-engineered payroll system na which is real time na.